EU leaders just moments ago announced they will spend more on military equipment to Ukraine and impose further sanctions on Russia following a two-day summit in Versailles. However, they ruled out a fast-track option for Ukraine to join the bloc, but showed a united front in their condemnation of the conflict. Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the war is odious and reaffirmed the EU's move to reduce reliance on Russian energy. She also said they would seek to tax windfall profits on energy companies to curb rising fuel costs. Let's play some of what the EU chief just said moments ago.
The second principle I mentioned was unity. It certainly guided us when we swiftly imposed altogether 3 successive waves of sanctions on the Kremlin. With an immediate, hard-hitting effect, we will now come forward with a 4th package of sanctions. These sanctions will further isolate Russia from the global economic system, increasing further the cost of Putin's invasion to Ukraine.
Let's take you now to Versailles, to DW correspondent Barbara Wezel. She is at the summit where she has been covering this 2-day meeting of EU leaders and bracing against the rain there. Barbara, strategic autonomy, energy security, becoming self-sufficient. Is that the new top priority for the European Union?
That is what the EU wants. They have heard and understood what this war means to them, what this Russian aggression that is so relentless and completely sort of unresponsive to any attempt to negotiate or tone it down or come to an understanding, that Putin is sort of single-mindedly pursuing his interests there in this war. They have understood what it means for them. They have understood that they are just that they can be blackmailed by Putin and, of course, by other international forces, other countries, maybe somewhere in the world, if they don't get more to be more self-reliant. And that is what they will do now. They will want to spend more money on defense because they've understood that at least they have to put up a credible show against aggression, military aggression, which nobody for decades in Europe had even held possible. And now they must see that it's there in front of their eyes. They will, of course, reorientate their industrial policy. They will need to produce a lot more things, not only weapons, but, for instance, semiconductors in Europe, because otherwise they have to rely on countries who could become hostile. And there is a long set of measures here that they have discussed and that they agree on. They will have to implement in the next months. The point with all this is the EU is here shoring up the opposition. What they're not doing is sort of figuring out how to help Ukraine in the immediate moment, how to sort of put more pressure on Russia.
Let's talk about that. What about fast-tracking EU membership for Ukraine, as the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has asked for repeatedly?
That is not happening. All they were capable of is a sort of symbolic gesture. Yes, you belong to our family. And yes, eventually you can sort of go along the path of EU accession, but nothing concrete, nothing for the moment. So this little moment of hope that Zelensky wanted to give his people, the EU is not granting it, because particularly older member states and northern member states were against it. They say it's too dangerous. We don't know what will happen, what that will entail for us. And so they blocked it. And so there is nothing more than a diplomatic gesture they're making towards Kiev at the moment.
Well, let's go listen now for a second. Barbara, a video statement was released by the President of Ukraine, Mr. Volodymyr Zelensky, and he addressed it directly to the EU. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Due to constant shelling in parts of the Sumy, Kiev and Donetsk regions, there is no electricity. There are problems with heating, no gas, no water. This is a humanitarian disaster. Humanitarian disaster, 2 words that have become fully synonymous with the other 2 words, Russian Federation.
Baba Vezel, the Ukrainian president there saying, there is a deepening humanitarian crisis unfolding in Ukraine, and it's for all to see. We've seen the millions of people that are being displaced, hospitals now being bombed. Will EU leaders face increasing public pressure in their countries, and what more can they do?
EU leaders, of course, will do anything they can to bring humanitarian aid into Ukraine. For instance, German rail services, Deutsche Bahn, they are now trying to roll trains into Ukraine with aid, with food, with the medicines. And they will, of course, increase the spending to bring more weapons into Ukraine. They are receiving all the refugees that managed to leave the countries and of the country, and of course a million or another million might yet come. So the prognosis is that up to 4 or 5 million Ukrainian refugees could come to the EU. They will do everything, of course, except this one thing that might really hurt Vladimir Putin. And yes, you said that public pressure for that is rising, but they're not ready yet to do it because they know it's going to hurt their own economies badly. They're not yet ready to cut off energy imports, oil and gas from Russia. And that fills Putin's war chest by about €1 billion per day. And that is the main problem, and they're not ready to tackle it.
All right, so we don't know what the red line for the EU is, but what we do know is that it's an economic and political organization. It's clear that it doesn't want to become a security provider, but is it on its way to become a security organization? What's your sense?
They are trying to become more capable of defending themselves, but they're not like NATO is, a sort of defense and security union. And they say that they can, of course, never fulfill the obligations and the duties of NATO. They always refer to that to NATO with regard to the military side. So they want to step up their efforts, of course. They want to be sort of more capable, but they will not step into those shoes. They can't. It's simply impossible because they know that basically if it really comes to the worst, they still have to rely on intervention from the United States.
DW correspondent Baba Vezel reporting from Versailles. Thank you.